We're live! Welcome back, everyone, to TableTalk, where we talk all things tabletop. I'm your host, The Bad Luck Gamer, with my co-host, Glue Boy.
Hello, hello.
And it is going to be a very busy time for me, more specifically. Not
Mostly for you.
Alex as much, yeah.
No, I got like my own shit or like real life, but no, you got more stuff on your plate.
Lots of stuff. But if you're tuning into our podcast for the first time, or at the very least you're watching this post the fact, we typically get to the topic somewhere in the 25-minute range. So hop to there if you want to. But we typically do a little bit of small talk while we let people hop into the chat here. Also, hi, Oyman. How you doing? So yeah, Alex, what's been up with you?
Not much. Mainly just getting back into content stuff. Released a video. I'm trying this month. This month I'm gonna try to actually stick to my schedule because it finally happened around like April. I can talk for long periods of time without being in immense pain. Kind of nice. And other than that, just it was also just the part of that all I've also been doing is what we were talking about. Every little moment where I'm just working or something, I've been watching Dimension 20. It straight up started the day after we talked about it on Table Talk, because right after we talked about it, it came up unprompted in my Friday D&D game, Dimension 20, where we were recommending it to a friend who's like never watched it before and also doesn't like actual plays. I started watching it and I'm like, let me analyze this. Where then I'm coming up with my theory that Brennan Lee Mulligan used to be a Pathfinder player before he got corrupted by the dark forces of Dungeons and Dragons. It's very clear. He used the words reflex save, Cam, which I messaged you right when it happened.
Literally last week, I think, we were talking about it because we were talking about hot takes.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, maybe was it? I don't know. I don't remember.
You said that he was a big nerd who actually liked combat in numbers.
Yeah. He does. He's actually a guy who legitimately enjoys that kind of stuff. So there's no way in hell he wouldn't play something like Pathfinder.
It's just I'm pretty sure it's probably Pathfinder First Edition, and strictly because like they've talked about like sense motive and reflex save, and he's clearly learning D&D 5e in season 1 of Dimension 20.
Sense motive, yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah. And they're talking about it in Fantasy High. That's the one I've been watching. I'm actually finishing Fantasy High for the first time. I've only watched like a good chunk of it and then the other smaller campaigns. And I gotta say, you put it very well in our little pre-chat before like we actually started it. Yeah, the big reason this is just the best actual play and the reason I like it is because it's so many things before it's actually tabletop. I love the fact that it's like great improv, storytelling, comedy, some great dramatic stuff, and then right at the end they're rolling dice and like telling stories with a D&D. God, I don't care about watching people play tabletop. I care about a good improv show. That's all I'm there for.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing with live plays. I think like if you were to have a good actual live play, everyone needs to be able to like look at whatever tabletop you're playing and be like, okay, yeah, how do I do this that's in an entertaining way? Because you can do it.
It's you definitely can. I think there's just the differing levels. I think it lands into what camp you are. I know there's a good chunk of people that definitely land a lot more in the camp of I want to watch people play the game I enjoy. I'm definitely not that, because my thought is I can just play the game. It switched right when I actually started playing tabletop regularly, because like when I wasn't playing any games, I wasn't part of any campaigns, I watched them regularly. I was a giant fan. I started finding like things like Critical Role and all that really boring the moment we started playing regularly. I was like, why would I watch someone else play D&D when I'm playing a tabletop game every week?
Yeah, well, and you know, like a huge part of that as well is literally just one, there's that because there's kind of it's like envy content in a way. where people are
Mhm.
like, man, I wish I was doing that.
I think so.
Uh,
That's the reason I was.
but also the thing is, it's not that people dislike live plays. I think that's actually kind of a misconception. I think they dislike watching other people play a tabletop normally, right? Like, no one's going to Adventure League or anything to watch the people at those tables play, typically, because that's not interesting. Because people are sitting there thinking, going, and or like, what's my ability to do, all that kind of stuff. That's why live plays turn a lot of people off. But there is a way if everyone is knowledgeable and is looking to make it entertaining and kind of like screen as much of the gameplay chatter out and actually like be more about the narrative and the story. I believe a live plays could be interesting because it's just context, you know, like uh if you're playing Amogus in Pathfinder Second Edition, you can be like, all right, I'm gonna spell strike with Polar Ray, or you could be like, my character incantate incantates a spell, my blade begins to burn with ice, and I slash the enemy and his face grows pale, you know? Like, which is a cooler way of saying I spell strike with Polar Ray. It's like,
Yeah.
obviously. So as long as you have that kind of context going forward, it can be really good. And yeah,
Yeah.
D20 does have high production value, and that's the thing, is like, it's like board games, right? Board games are really cool, and people like to learn about board games, but people don't like to watch other people play board games like normally.
To be honest, I think a large portion of it is it's not even just the production value, which they do have a lot of. I think like genuinely half of it is just D20 edits their fucking sessions.
Yeah.
That's the part. They put in little sound effects, which is like secondary. They have great little parts of just editing, focusing in on combats, making the combats a little easier to track visually. They have they actually cut around chatter. Is just that aspect. It's just doing that because you can have combat chatter. I think that's fine. But then as a product, the viewer doesn't need to see that. And so you just go take that into your editing software and you just cut it out.
Yeah.
And that's I honestly I think is the real secret. And then yeah, they have very stupidly good improv skills. But yeah, I think that is just that's what's super fun about just listening through these.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
that's,
certain those uploads. I know they had to go to live because of COVID stuff. Though I am certain that they've been at least trimmed down for the same reasons.
I mean, to be fair, like, this just translates everywhere. There's not a specific thing that this doesn't apply to, because I guess not 100%, because gaming is similar, because the way most people play games, right, is just sitting there quietly playing the game. But game content creators give commentary and they play it up, and they're very animated while playing a game, sometimes too much, which makes them worse at the game. The only times that it doesn't 100% translate is when it's like highly competitive stuff, but then that's a very different element, because people are like, what's making this person so good at this game? And that's just not like a thing that tabletop does, but that's not a thing that like anything else really does either, you know? So it's just you have to dress certain things in a way that is appealing to an audience, and there's gonna be people who do want to see like actual content, and like that's the thing, right? Our channel, we do live play stuff, but it's mostly so people can see, one, how we play, so that they have a frame of reference, and two, so that we can show off other games that people don't normally look into and get a feel for like how the game actually plays.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be like huge fan base or like people getting super hyped about it. At some point in the future, I'd like to do that kind of content instead. But you know, I'd also like to do that when I can force everyone to play the way I want to with money. So until
Yeah,
then, we'll
so we
just
can
do it
afford
because
that.
yeah. Until then, we're just gonna play games and we're gonna do what we were already gonna do, which is just play tabletop and just have it live so people can see how a game is played if they're curious.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's just the days when we would normally play these games, anyways. The difference is that you press a funny button before we start.
Why isn't my live stream of me playing Valorant in complete silence not popping off? Yeah, right. I
Yeah,
mean, it's like, why does most popular content also have face cam? Because people want to look at something. And you know what? Even the pros, when it's like something like Valorant or like Fortnite or whatever, you know, now the pros are getting super animated. It's it's just something where you need entertainment value, funny enough, for things to be entertaining. And I think it definitely can be done with tabletop. It needs to be presented and done in a way that is entertaining. And like, this is why I don't like the whole like Matt Mercer theory and everything like that, because everyone's just like, or the Matt Mercer effect or whatever, because they're like, people are looking at this and they're expecting games to be played like Critical Role, and it's like, yeah, if you want to get people interested in a thing, you're going to play up the parts of a thing that makes it really interesting, you
mm-hmm.
know? And Critical Role is the aspect of people who are really good at getting into the narrative and role playing and being very like all about the story.
Yeah. I think it's really fun, especially because I know we've talked about this on Table Talk and just in other things. When it comes to you, the idea of like the critical role and the Matthew Mercer effect, specifically the idea that Matthew Mercer and your DM styles are just very similar.
Yeah.
It's always just been different. One thing that I always found really weird, and it's happening again, because I had the same thing when I watched through a couple campaigns like the Escape from Bloodkeep stuff. It's yet another bit where I'm like, oh, a good reason why I'm really into Dimension 20 is because I like Brennan is my kind of GM style because the amount of times, like even before I knew what Dimension 20 was, when I was actively running D&D every week for my friends, the amount of times I have actually said like, I don't think that's how that works, but yeah, fuck it, let's run. Like because that sounds cool. Because I operate real cool. Or oftentimes I would do why don't you describe to me how that works and I'll let you roll for it, because like the main idea is I want to hear how much you give a shit about this idea before I let you make a check, because the idea is like, you're not gamifying this. I want you to come up with a really fun thing that you would be popped off if this worked. And then it would happen. Everyone would pop the fuck off because someone's dumb, stupid, crazy plan would work, and it'd be fun because you run off a rule of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, that's why I definitely think that like the two shows are just very different experiences that appeal to
Yeah.
different people, and that's good. Tabletop needs honestly more of that.
Yeah.
So
Good varieties of people with like different styles is important, and I'm happy that there are multiple. I hope there are others because I think that there I want to see more like genuinely interesting and innovative actual plays, because like production wise, like a lot of actual plays look the exact same
yeah,
and they feel very similar. I feel like Dimension 20 stands out in the way of it kind of feels. It's like I feel like another style could do this and not feel like Dimension 20.
yeah, I agree. Again, something I would like to do at some point in the future as well is just something that uh if I was to do it, I would really want to play up the immersed character, like you're watching your people who are listening to your game are in their brain watching like animation or something like of what's going on. Something that's very more that pops off a little bit more. Like one of the things I really really want to do is I like to have someone like in the back, and when characters are talking, their faces pop up and they're like chatting with each other, you know, on screen, kind of like in a JRPG kind of stuff. Like things like that that really bring the narrative part to life in a way that just no other tabletop does, really.
Hmm.
There's also the group aspect, and one of the things I think Critical Role and Dimension 20 does really well is they're all sitting in the same room. And so you
That too.
can legitimately watch them having fun together as people. And I feel like that's something that people really envy and really wants. And I think that's very successful as well.
Also, just physical roleplay that they can do is a lot. Like, there's a lot of added elements that they all bring to the table by just being able to physically interact and like do a lot of differing roleplay than like all voice or just at a webcam. And like, yeah, they're literally all trained in both either traditional acting, voice acting, or improv. Because like, fucking college humor, UCB, or directly working in the Hollywood system or in voice acting. Like it's just
Yeah.
they're all of them are super trained.
I mean, that's definitely an element for sure. And that's just the thing. Like, that's what that when I say make everyone play the way I want, it's more of making everyone take improv, courses and actually improving our ability to riff off of each other and to just be more entertaining in general and improve our skill. Like tabletop is a skill. Honestly, being good at tabletop is a skill. So like there's nothing wrong with wanting to have a higher skill profile for people in your production. I
Yeah.
think that's pretty normal.
Even
And I
then,
just
there's like the physical techniques that you see too. There's one that I caught out that I immediately was just like, oh, that's cool. There's a dramatic scene at the end of season one where like Shaban, the was described as like her character started crying, like, and so the immediate thing she did, sitting at the table, was stare into the top studio lights, which is
yeah.
what you do, by the way. If you need to tear up on stage, you immediately stare into the hot studio lights. That is how you tear up. It is that is a legitimate trick. And I was like, oh fuck, I know what you're doing there,
Yeah.
which is very cool.
Well, and I feel like another problem with like our production is most people don't have face cam or anything like that. So there's not a need to like animate or do anything, and there's no feedback that anyone can really give to each other. So that's just another aspect to it as well. Like there's so many things, and like I'm not trying to compare our stuff obviously with Critical Role or uh Dimension 20. More just I'm just saying like what I would like to do in the future with that kind of stuff, because like this is a role play channel. Obviously, I love to bring that experience, but be that experience for more than just D&D. Be the channel that people go to when they're like, I love watching them play, but I want to see them play other games. So let's check out this channel that's actually playing other games.
Yeah, like just whatever random tabletop game, be it like our main thing of Pathfinder, or like, yeah, we're doing like what we're gonna be doing next season of Mutants and Masterminds.
Yeah.
The random small games that like one of us is just hankering to play.
Yeah. And and that's the thing. Like I would love to be also like that force where like that game you love, like any of my players love or whatever, make that something that more people know about, you know. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the subject today. Paizo's releasing a ton of books. Yes, that is happening. There's a lot. Actually, tomorrow, they're going to be doing a live thing on Twitch, where they're going to be talking about the Tianxia stuff coming out. and James Case was mentioning that maybe another one of the archetypes is going to be ninjas. I don't know.
Oh.
One of the things that he was using as kind of a spoiler was a picture of or a gif of Sasuke doing hand signs. Yeah, let me see if I can find that.
I know that also, let's see, tomorrow on Paizo Live, we're going to get a bunch of Howl of the Wild spoilers.
Yes, Howl of the Wild stuff also coming up as well.
Which has a lot of cool stuff in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Koja, I will be producing a ton of content on this stuff. Any new character options, I will be making content on. You can rest assured. There is a... Where is this? Okay, can I go to this post? Yes. Okay. Let's see, can I share screen? I can. You can kind of see it behind me here. This is them talking. James here was also another James. Do it, spoil all you want. And then here's Sasuke doing a bunch of hand signs.
Thanks for getting us more spoilers, James.
Yeah, thanks, James. You're a real one.
Our hero.
Our hero. So, maybe ninjas? Or maybe some kind of, like, ninja-like techniques?
Will be cool.
Don't know, but it's going to be awesome. I know How the Wild is coming out, so, like, right... Let's see here. I'm pulling up the Paizo website right now. Because the Qiansha book is coming out on April 24th. Oh, thanks for the sub. Is coming out on the 24th, and then How the Wild is coming out... Loading. On May 22nd, so less than a month between the two books released. These are two of the biggest books coming out, and then we're gonna have a slight break in June, and then Player Core 2 comes out in July.
That's gonna be cool, at least when the... Yeah, because there's not gonna be a Player Core 3, right? It's just gonna be Player Core 2?
Just the two.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Hopefully they'll be releasing a ton of errata as well. I know when we were talking with Michael, that he mentioned at some point they're working on errata and they're gonna be doing a lot of errata. Yeah, also the Starfinder 2 stuff coming out. And yeah, I remember you asked earlier about we were in a little story time. Were you talking about their April Fools, the Gap thing?
The Gap was a really funny joke.
It was really good. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, the Starfinder stuff, and I will be covering Starfinder on this channel as well. So when Starfinder starts kind of coming out for real, well, I'll probably be covering it also for all the stuff that's coming out here this summer. But when we do get to the actual Starfinder 2 stuff, releasing the books and everything, you'll be seeing Starfinder content here on this channel as well. So
makes sense, especially if it's like more compatible and more...
What's AMA? Is that like a answer?
What? Ask me anything.
Ask me anything? Oh, okay. I did not see the AMA. I have been insanely busy lately. Am I going to cover the Gap?
Yeah,
that would be good.
Can you cover that book?
Yeah, they made physical copies.
Yeah, you should.
I should just ask for one. Tell them send me in the mail.
Yeah, cover the book, and then like, and then what you do? You make the video like, all right, here's my view of the contents, and it's a black screen for a full minute,
Yeah.
and then the video ends.
Yep. But yeah, so there's a ton, and there's gonna be a bunch of archetypes coming out, a bunch of like, I'm scared. Okay, I recently just set in the other day my review requests for the World Guide and the How of the Wild stuff. So I'll probably be receiving the Tianxia in 2 weeks, probably not next week, but probably the week after. I'll be receiving that because I always tend to get it about a week early, somewhere in that range. And I will be doing videos on the archetypes coming out, and I'll be doing any like maybe class archetype stuff, obviously, and ancestries, because there's a bunch of new ancestry stuff. This is also an opportunity for them to do like some new stuff with some of the ancestries that had come out originally with the Advanced Player's Guide. And I would love to cover the field tests, but I don't know. I feel like I just have so much on my plate already that I'm already doing. And I would like to, if I do produce content, to do something that people can, come back and watch, and will watch for a long time for people who get interested.
Covering a playtest that can then be just invalidated.
Yeah, it's like, anytime you cover a playtest for a thing, eventually that content just dies, and that's like,
Yeah.
not necessarily something. When I'm already busy, I don't know. But I will be doing it for the actual like full playtest that they're doing for Gen Con. Yeah, just talking about them over stream. And we'll probably talk more about it as we get closer to the playtest they're doing for Starfinder 2. And you can know for sure I'll be covering Starfinder 2 content, as well as any stuff that comes out for normal Pathfinder as it comes out. Oh, you got to play with Thurston? I'm so jelly. I want to play with Thurston so bad. I've seen a lot of his work on Narrative Declaration, and I'd love to chat with him and to check some stuff out. I keep trying to get an interview with him, and I just have not been successful yet. the problems with being in a small channel. But yeah. So what we do know is we have a magical girl archetype coming out soon.
That is true.
We are also getting some new archetype, or some new ancestries. We have the Tanuki, and there's quite a few other ones. But the funny thing is, if I look at the World Guide thing, I don't think it mentions them here. So it's just somewhere online, and it's so hard for me to find all this information. It's so hard for me to remember everything.
There's just been like a lot of info scattered like all over.
Yeah.
Like, the problem.
I'm super excited for a lot of the mech stuff that might come with Starfinder 2. I think Paizo's really excited to kind of kick Starfinder into high gear, and I feel like they're gonna get a lot more wild with Starfinder, because they saw like how 2nd edition Pathfinder worked out really, really well. So I feel like they're gonna be doing a lot more crazy stuff with Starfinder, because now they know. Now they have all the information.
Just paging through the Discord AMA, it definitely, I kept seeing a lot of answers with are you gonna do this thing but crazier? And I was seeing a lot of yes. So yeah, you're
Yeah.
correct.
So, I mean, like, it's funny because they're such like gamers, right? They play the game, they really are invested in it. They're already thinking what people who are already into tabletop are thinking. And not only that, but they're the same kind of tabletop players I am, the same kind that I am, you know. The kind that like want to tell a really really cool story, but like having a ton of rules backing that story up. So anytime I come up with something, they're going to come up with it. And so it's just like I know if I think something they're going to do something, it's likely going to happen. It's even funny because we were just playing our game on Tuesday, Riptide. And I was like, yeah, you know that thunder charm I made for your character that was unique at the time? Yeah, they made the jolt coil, which does literally the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Same spells and everything.
Keeps happening. It keeps. It's too common. They're listening.
Jolt coil is so good, yeah, and that's the thing, right? I called it the thunder charm, and it literally did the same exact things. So, you know, I am 100% sure that with Starfinder, we're going to see a lot more very interesting things that the characters can do, especially because I feel like Starfinder already was a lot more restricted when it came to like classes and subclasses kind of. But they had like a ton of ancestries and stuff like that. So I have a very strong feeling that they're going to kind of keep to that trend. They're not going to release like a bazillion classes necessarily, but they're going to give you more things your characters can do. Because let's see here and pop over to good old Archive and Nethys. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, only 14 classes compared to Pathfinder's current like 23, and first edition Pathfinder's like 100. I don't know, it was a lot.
Good question. How many? It's a lot of classes for first edition Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Yeah, damn.
Yeah, first edition Pathfinder has a lot. So, you know, I feel like they're going to give more options or like more things your characters can do with the classes being something more of like an archetype in a sense, like how your character generally plays with extra things to like more hone your characters. Yeah. So, you know, but they might also come out with some more interesting classes. I don't know. I honestly didn't play a ton of original Starfinder, to be fair. So we'll have to see. But I have a very strong feeling that they're just going to offer more options for characters. So, see, and it's thing, right? I know nothing. I haven't seen literally anything. And everything I'm saying, like, yeah, they're going to do this. Everyone's like, yeah, they said that already. And it's like,
It's just the decisions that are like obvious because they've been testing a lot of stuff out with Pathfinder Second Edition. They have the situation where they're safely able to make these decisions, and then all they're doing is they're saying, "Hey guys, Starfinder, we're making Starfinder 2. It's gonna be really similar to Pathfinder, like very very similar of a jump. So if you like one game, you'll like the other." And so it's just all those people who are used to Pathfinder jumping over to Starfinder. And if they're gonna be getting like the rinky dinky, very basic, boring, and safe game editions, Paizo's in a company position where they can safely do that and like release it with their fan base. Because the community that likes these games is in this position where now Paizo can kind of just freely make the stuff they want to make and enjoy and write something, be like, hello, I just wrote all this like cool rules on this really intelligent, like a weird ancestry I just made. Will the community like it? Yeah, of course they will.
You know, that's a funny thing too. Like that's something when we were talking with Michael Sayer, I really felt, which was so starkly different than what it appears happens at Wizards of the Coast. At Paizo, they genuinely enjoy making games. They enjoy
Yeah,
making their rules, and they're like, man, they let us have too much freedom, and we just took it and ran. And like at WotC, I'm pretty sure they're like, they broke out the whips and they forced us to rewrite this game. You, it really doesn't feel like anything that comes out with D&D 5e was made with all that much love. Besides, like their collaborative work, like Dragon Heist or Descent into Avernus. You know,
yeah. Descent to Avernus was like really cool. I also just opened up. I was checking through some other stuff through Twitter to see if there's any other Paizo things. The first tweet I see that opens up is a the former previous head of D&D making some rule write up on like, do you want to calculate your D&D stats in real life? To calculate your intelligence stats, you have to you start from 20 and subtract the amount of time every week you either spend writing your D&D campaign or playing D&D. He has a 19 intelligence, which means he spends an hour thinking about D&D every week. The former head of Dungeons and Dragons. It's like, that feels like it's a weird state for you to be in.
also so backwards that you would make if you were. It sounds like he's trying to flex, right? Because the whole point is he has a high intelligence.
I
I
think
don't
he's
know.
trying to say the more time you spend dealing with D&D, the dumber you are, as like a jab.
That feels like what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I don't know. That's yeah, I don't know. Like legitimately, I cannot be surprised with Paizo being mega nerds when Champions Lay on Hand being used every 10 minutes was like, yes, this is expected. Carry on. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh
that's just normal.
yeah. I mean, you know, and that's the thing, right? Is Pathfinder Second Edition is such an innovative game because it literally decided to fuck what anyone says about like how people thought games like D&D should be like Pathfinder has infinite healing, not in combat but out of combat, you know. Things where the characters have enough time to sit down and like take on the next encounter, they can do so. And so most of the game's balance and expectation is that characters are coming into the combats at full power, you know, which is smart because no one wants to play their character when they're feeling like they are nerfed. How many times have you ever played a video game where your character loses like a little bit of your max HP and stamina and you're like, well, I might as well go rest right now? Like, I would rather have my full HP and mana and stamina right now than not. Like who in their right mind looked at that and be like, I still got some adventuring time left in me. Let's go, you know?
Yeah,
Like unless the game rewards you for doing that, you're not going to do it. And in tabletop especially, there's just not a good way to reward it unless the DM makes that the thing, you know? So of course your players are going to. I mean, like when anyone who played D&D who played a warlock, like has to go like, hey guys, can we take an hour-long break, please?
can we rest? Any more spell slots back? I only have fucking 2 of them.
Yeah, because no one likes playing with their shit gone. And that's the thing, right? Is like it obviously it feels like Pathfinder is made for people who enjoy playing tabletop games, not for people who are super like simulationists, which I feel like is a big part of the tabletop community. And they would necessarily take umbrage with what I'm saying. But like those people have a very different desire than I feel like what a lot of people in tabletop want, which is they want to tell a very interesting story, you know.
Want to
It's
tell
like
like a really interesting story, or also just like hang out for a couple hours with their buds, like, and like laugh and joke around and like have fun. It's like, which also like, yeah, you tell fun stories. You have those stories that are like, ah, man, remember when you did that thing? Oh, it was so fucking cool. Yeah. Yeah, you tell those like moments and you gush about it for years to come. It's the fun and the joy of tabletop. I have talked endlessly to people about those moments, their cool plot beats, their moments in combat. You know, the stories that I don't hear, the people who talk about simulating
Yeah.
survival mechanics.
Thanks, Got Geek vibes for the sub. Yeah, I mean, yeah, legitimately, right? I've heard them defend it. I've heard them defend it, but never have I ever sat there being like, so one time we were in a dungeon and I ran out of arrows and I had to fight with a knife, you know? What they'll say is like, yeah, my character never goes into a dungeon without at least like 40 arrows. When I get to like 13, I just go buy a few more like a few more dozen arrows. Right.
Wow, it sounds like you're, it's the same thing as having infinite ammo, but with an extra annoying step you have to mention all the time. Sounds
and
like
that's
nothing
the thing.
fundamentally would change.
It's like, and that kind of relates to what we were talking about live plays earlier. When it's like, there's just parts of tabletop that shine that you want to put a highlight on, and you want to just kind of remove the elements that really aren't that fun as much as possible. I won't forget that time my group spent 7 rounds fighting 4 skeletons we could have one-shooted.
And you just like memed on them for 7 rounds, I assume.
I mean, that would be funny. True.
Yeah, because that's like the thing you do. You just kind of fuck around for 7 rounds.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not against. Oh, we could not roll for shit. That's another problem that is just prevalent in tabletop in general. I hate the swinginess of D20, but that's a different conversation. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not against people who enjoy simulationist games. It's like video games. There are people that enjoy games that have more like intricate systems, games that are more simulationist, because I think for those people, they like the idea of role playing as someone in that situation, like how they would actively do it. People, they're the kind of people who love survival shows about people who kind of go out and like how to make a tent out of various things or how to build stuff out of sticks and stuff. Like, that's the kind of stuff that appeals to those kinds of people, and that's completely fine.
Yeah.
That's something that I think is very legitimate. The reason why I mention it, though, is tabletop is moving kind of away from that as its core root, because that was a lot of what early tabletop kind of was.
Yeah, like that's always my biggest hurdle with it, and that's the reason I find it so annoying is that aspect. Because you can like what you like, you can have fun with what you have fun with. I'm never here to harsh anyone's yum. Like, you can just have fun. There's a time and place for like whatever you enjoy. On the other hand, the part that gets me is a lot of those specific elements are always like, it's my annoyance of, this isn't game design, it's tedium. You're tricking yourself into thinking that this is like intricate decision making. All this is adding extra steps to like nothing decisions and like nothing situations. And then the other thing that gets me is, so wait, what is the actual thought process between like including this? Oh, it's just the thing that's been done for 30 years. Oh, that's it. That's the only reason. And like, that's what gets me for a lot of like the big names, is just, we've always done it this way.
I mean, and like I said, it's perspective, because what seems tedious to you is like another person's role play. You know what I mean? Like, they like the idea of like, when they're using their arrows, they can imagine their quiver getting smaller and smaller, being filled with less shots.
Weirdos, I say.
But this is funny because Oyman just said something that was very interesting here that I actually really agree with. Like, if there was a space racing game where you need to track your fuel and get good at gravity assist and whatnot, I'd be honestly very into it. If you can make the tedious parts actually have impact and tension, yeah, for sure, that becomes actually a gameplay mechanic. It's like
There are
in
games that do it good.
Resident Evil games when you're
Yeah.
carrying your herbs and shit, you gotta puzzle them into your box, and that can be a whole game by itself. That's I mean that's what Backpack Hero is all about,
I like
honestly.
Backpack Hero. It's a good game.
And
It's intent. It's the intent behind it. It's
yeah,
you need to actually like think, because I mean, I like Dragon's Dogma like 2 a lot. I think it's a good time, and I have a great time with the. I'm a person who hates fucking carry weight, and I think Dragon's Dogma is a good time with the because I feel like there's a lot of thought into it. Sure, a lot of the thought is by crazy people, and all the decisions are weird, but like I respect it because I'm like I'm playing and I'm like, this was thought out, and I respect it.
the Starspan Magus in that skeleton game has been using cobalt slings so they don't run out of their arrows too quickly in this dungeon. Yeah, and see, that's just something that I don't find interesting because, like, for me, at the very least, I don't find value in things like ammo, right? Unless it's special ammo, of course. Which
Yeah,
I I,
that makes
I don't
sense.
think a single person has ever like, no, I never include the amounts of special ammo. I think everyone understands special ammo needs to be limited. Uh, but like, there's just nothing because it's like all it is like a binary. Have ammo, yes, can shoot. No ammo, can't shoot. Nothing was added to the game by losing all your ammo. It's just now you can't use your thing. And for people who like that kind of stuff, all for it. I think you guys can enjoy the game exactly how you want to play it. But for me, I don't want to see it in my game. Or
Me
at the
neither.
very least, if it is in my game, I'm going to ignore it, which technically we do with Pathfinder. Because Pathfinder does have ammo rules, but like who uses it, besides I guess Ted Phoenix's game here. So
If you're gonna have it in your game, I think there's the decision of intent, because I think that there's positions where it makes sense. Like if you're playing like a very gritty game, like if your idea is, all right, we're gonna go very gritty, dark fantasy, like Pathfinder 2e, where we're going to simulate like actually traveling. You guys, we're gonna like limit the money you're getting. Maybe it's harder to get magic items, and like that's the intent. Makes sense. Will I openly want to join a game like that? Maybe not. But there was something that was talked about in this Discord of the idea of a game like that being ran, because specifically the intent behind it is that's what it's like at earlier levels, and you work up because once you're a higher level character, you have all these methods and the money to get around that. So then like the growth feels a lot better, and like it's a lot more significant, because it's not just you have a bigger number and more powers. It is your status, your wealth, and your ability to operate in society has increased. And like that has intent and weight behind it, where I think that's really cool and good design if done well by the GM. Basic ammo tracking, because you have an arrow quiver, I think is boring. Though I also will say, using a sling does make sense, because I fear the person who underestimates how strong a sling is. That shit is fucking scary. The story of David and Goliath is the real story of a small boy shooting a tall man with a 22. A sling operated has the firepower of a handgun.
yeah,
It is fucking scary.
it's just not a big. Yeah, and to be
Yeah.
fair to Phoenix, we're not saying your game is invalid or anything.
Oh
Like
no,
that.
it's not what we're saying. It's taste at the end of the day. And if
Yeah.
honestly, if digital makes me care less, because a lot of it comes down to if it's unphysical. If you're gonna sit there and make me erase a sheet endlessly, I'm gonna be annoyed. But like digital tracking, I think is less annoying, but I still am just not a fan.
Well,
Unless there's a very clear intent behind it.
and my reason why I don't particularly like it in like Pathfinder is ranged weapons really don't have significant advantage over melee weapons. Like, on some levels, it can, because technically having distance and being able to get hits off on an enemy before they get to you is significant in most battle games. But if an enemy gets adjacent to you, there's not many ways that you can equitably get distance and keep your damage up, where an enemy just can't keep running up on you and keep attacking you. So you're equivalently always in melee range. You're just both spending an action, or you're just both wasting each other's action every round, essentially. I'm sure there are some ways it can be done, but I have never felt range characters had any significant advantage over melee characters. To be fair, I also don't play with a lot of situations of like flying enemies, because I find 3D combat to be more tedious than it is helpful. And I also don't like the converse effect of, by adding flying enemies in, you make the melee players' lives harder when you get into those situations, just so that you can make ranged weapons feel more valid. You know what I mean? It feels like it takes away. It takes away from one and gives to another, rather than actually being additive to the experience as a whole. There's a reason range got nerfed, kind of. Yeah, no, Pathfinder First Edition, range characters were broken, insanely so, because you didn't have to move. You could full action shoot, which was very powerful. But also became kind of like the gold standard for hardcore meta builders. So, you know, it's yeah, full action Aerodaka, pretty much. So, like, it's understandable why it got changed, but that's why in second edition, I just don't find it as valuable, right? Like, it's kind of what we're already talking about. If there's intent, it's a different thing. If ranged weapons were something that were really powerful, but you needed to track ammo to keep it balanced, that would be something I'd be much more interested in the end. But it's not. So, I'm not really super worried about it, honestly.
Yeah, then it's just the special ammo tracking conversation again.
Yeah, which is like, everyone tracks special ammo and everyone knows you need to track it. So, you know, like, no one has a problem tracking special ammo, because they are valuable and they are something that is very good. And like, that's why I love Munitions Crafter for Pathfinder Second Edition, and that's why I like
great.
Eldritch Archer too. I'm very excited to see what they got coming out in these new books, though, honestly. The new archetypes that are coming out in the Qianxia. Like, the Qianxia book is going to have so much for me to work with. There's guaranteed going to be, like, probably 4 or more archetypes. And there's going to be a bunch of new ancestry stuff, new ancestries to play with. And then Howl of the Wild is literally just a player book. It's just there. Like, it's in the rules section. It's just there to give players more options. And that book also is going to have a bunch of new stuff. Let's see, there's 6 new ancestries coming out in that book. In addition, new archetypes, undefined, but I know there's the bee archetype, the beekeeper one. There's a new options for shapeshifting druids, which is pretty cool. Where druids can shapeshift into playable were creatures. And that's going to be a unique like archetype for druids. Like, there's so much coming in just these next 2 months. I'm glad I have a month break between them and the remaster, because for any of you who were here during the remaster, I busted my ass and I did like over 10 videos in 2 weeks. Oh yeah, also there's a new Magus style coming out in this next in Qianxia as well. The
Oh,
the
I didn't hear about that.
the flying sword one.
Oh,
It's kind of like the Miram, when they jump on their swords and they fly,
that is the coolest.
So that's also coming out in Tianxia. So like there's so much in these next couple of months to look at and to really like sink our teeth into. And then it's like Core 2 comes out. A lot of people cannot wait for that book because a lot of people have classes they want to see the changes of. I'm very curious to see the new dragon changes coming out for like Barbarian and Sorcerer. And we're just gonna have so many things to like tool around with. And then they're gonna release another rule book this fall, some point, the War of the Immortals. And we're gonna have 2 new classes.
I can't wait. I can't wait for Exemplar, man.
I
That is
Exemplar is gonna be really good.
God, I wanna play like a
And Mythic,
lightning
yeah.
demigod so bad. I want the Thor hammer, like returning weapon so bad.
Yeah. I love how the class is set up. I'm really curious.
Yeah.
I also really want to see what they've done with Animist, because I know Animist got a lot of like they got a lot of feedback around Animist, and I feel like they're going to retool it up a bit. So I'm very curious to see. But I really love the idea of Animist kind of being a character who has several like ghost entity like things that you can become possessed by to use certain abilities. I really like that idea.
I know what's gonna happen to me, because it's happened with every book. Is what's gonna happen is I'm hyper excited for one class of a 2-class release. But what's the character concepts that hit me is the one for the other one. So I'm also gonna be hit with some Animus characters, because I'm gonna look through Animus way later after Exemplar and realize, oh shit, this is very cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just what Paizo's done really well, is every time they release a new class, it's never a class that people don't want to play because another class does it better. And it's also never a class that people are like, oh, this just replaced blah blah class. They all do something really different and they've all been really good. I think the only one that really struggles is the Swashbuckler. And you know what? Honestly, I think in Player Core 2, Swashbuckler is going to get some tuning as well.
I would
Honestly.
imagine, because like
I don't think Swashbuckler is bad. Don't get me wrong. I think
me
Swashbuckler is
neither.
legitimately good.
I think there's some light fixes just to make Swashbuckler feel more consistent is like the best fixes they could do.
I think it's just their panache needs to be easier because honestly, not other classes don't have to fight for their special bonus as much as Swashbuckler does.
It is a struggle at times. It like Swashbuckler's super fun. Is just there is a loop that you have to do with Swashbuckler, and it's easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And well, and I don't even necessarily agree to the idea of the loop. I feel like it's just trying way too hard to maximize damage when the point of the class is more just like when you get your groove on, you're really kicking it up, and when the enemy's getting down, then you finish. Like I feel like the finisher should be a finisher rather than like part of the damage loop.
Like one thing I always felt when I was playing Swashbuckler is I thought it was super fun, but I never hit the thing of like it felt like I had to do very specific cool things. It never felt like I could do spontaneous like yo ho ho, let me hit these like crazy maneuvers. It felt like I had like, well, I have to do this to get my panache, and then I have to do this to maximize my finisher, like best possible chance, and then I have to fish for a crit here, like things like that.
Yeah.
I that if anything, that's a thing I would love to see for Swashbuckler is just a little bit more room for like improv panache gain, maybe, or anything like that.
I mean, honestly, I'd love to see them have more actions that use panache in new ways. Like you have your panache bonus, and you can do like a finisher, but it's not just like an attack finisher. It's like you can expend your panache and gain like a plus 50 to your movement speed, or something like that.
I went into Swashbuckler wanting to play like a Dante type character, and I went away from it playing like basically a spicy rogue. It
Yeah,
wasn't like it wasn't the full experience that I wanted out of a Swashbuckler. I feel like they can and probably will make it hit hard, like a hit better. Even though it is still like I think a really fun class. It's
that's
just
your
I think they
mindset.
can make it better.
That's your mindset, though, isn't it? Because it says GM can award panache for different stuff as well. Well, yes, but see, the thing is, the player then needs to role play better to get panache rather than just make one of their checks. So it's still something that adds extra onus on the player to get a power spike or to get in their stance. Like, most players just need to invest like in action and get it guaranteed. So it doesn't make sense that for Swashbuckler, it's either A, need to succeed a check, or B, I now have to roleplay better, or I have to do weirder things, which might just eat up actions anyway in order to get it back. Because when I had a Swashbuckler, I all the time, Alex did something, he said, I want to do this thing, and I'm like, that's cool. You get panache. I do
Yep,
that all
I
the
will do
time.
it. I will do it. I will go ham, I'll go crazy. Don't get me wrong. I will. Even for the meme, just do something cool because I will. However, when it comes down to it, that the decision of like is that your mindset can hit, but on the other hand, you have two options in your hand. One is you have a key skill, maybe even with an assurance that you cannot really fail at this. You will more than likely succeed, and at most, you will reliably crit succeed. That is in your left hand. On your right hand, you have a maybe situation that you can maybe wow your GM and impress them so much they'll swoon over your character and give you a resource. Which is more reliable and which are you picking? Like in a gameplay situation, there's just one that you're going to be wanting to pick. One is more fun, and I will usually go with the like this seems funny in the moment. I'm gonna let this rip. But like when it comes to like a gameplay design, every GM is differently. Some will be more stingy. Some can be dicks like that wasn't impressive enough. Some could I don't know. It's I think if anything mechanically it can be driven to like be a little bit more improvisational and like still work just fine and have panache be a little bit more open. I think that wouldn't break Swashbuckler. Like a little bit more open to gain and open to spend. Like spend in other ways than just like to deal damage. I think having access to a couple other ways of like, yeah, maybe increase your movement speed. Maybe you get like some other buffs that you can like spend it in the moment. I think it's not a bad way of taking the class.
I mean, technically, you can gain panache through feats.
There are other ways.
There's you firsts or
Yep.
whatever,
The you
or
first
after
is
you.
like or yeah, after you. It's that's like the guaranteed one because
That's
you'll
what a
start
lot of
with your stuff.
swashbucklers take because of that.
Why wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, exactly, right. So it's just like, I agree. I think legitimately, panache would be much more interesting if it was something that was like, you have it now, now you don't. You have it now you don't. Something that gives your characters these moments of like feeling like on top of the world, and
Mm,
then like expending that, and now you're kind of like back to normal, and you need to like chase that high again. That's kind of like what Swashbuckler is
yeah,
supposed to be about anyway. So yeah, I
I
like
think
that
that's
as
better
an
way.
idea.
I think that's like that's the feeling of a swashbuckler is you are constantly trying. Like I think the best way to put it is you're going for that hit. You're trying to go for that like that cool thing, and like you're it's an ebb and flow. Like you like the way I picture it is like you're on your digital screen. There's a box that is just panache, and multiple times in your turn, maybe like twice at most it is being clicked, unclicked, because you're spending it to do something, you're stopping, and then like another action, you gain it, and like that's a crazy turn. You gained panache, spent it, gained it again. Your turn. Whoa, fucking dude, you're crazy. You rolled great, and then like an average turn, like you're gonna gain it, lose it, gain it. or things like that. Like it's a constant ebb and flow that changes every turn because it's in a wild battlefield. You're swinging around, you're dodging dudes, you're like jumping over them, you're flipping over people. You're like jumping on a ogre's like war club and backflipping off of it, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's cool gameplay. It would feel fun to play, and it's a like a constant resource gain where you have a singular resource. I think would be a very fun like gameplay thing that I would immediately like rush to make a swashbuckler.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is I guarantee it's gonna get something. I don't know if it's gonna get something as
100%.
deep as that, but
No, this is us
I
spitballing more than anything.
if anything, I think something that would help Swashbuckler is you just gain panache on a normal fail, but not a crit fail. And I think that would fix a lot of the problems with the cat class, because then what that does is your character is now motivated to use the extra actions that get you panache normally, because even if you miss, you still get panache, which is a pretty decent power boost anyway. And you don't there's no feel bad. And so it's just like there's it pretty much it boils down to it doesn't hurt to try, which is something that I
Yeah.
think would make Swashbuckler interesting.
That's the other part that actually is immediately the thing about Swash that makes me want other aspects of being able to do it, have it open up. Because the idea of like your style skill, because usually it's like one key skill, and
Yeah.
the idea that if you are fighting an enemy and your style skill, this enemy
Well,
is immune,
you could always tumble through.
you can always tumble through. That is true.
So
I don't know. I think that there could be feats because it's a thing that we were talking about with Michael Sayer. It's the feats that then are mechanically those story moments. I think there could be feats that a couple feats added to Swashbuckler that help give mechanics to cool Swashbuckler actions that can help you gain panache, and you have some like weirder, crazier stuff. Because I can come up with a cool, goofy like maneuvers till the cows come home. Not every player is like that,
yeah.
and stuff for those players I think is beneficial.
Yeah, and that's actually like an extra reason why I don't like the idea of like, well, you can always do something cool. Like, man, what if you're just a low energy guy, you know? Like, what if you're just playing with your friends? It's not anything that major, you know, or you're just not confident, but you like the idea of your character. Like,
If it's just like a one shot and you're just all playing like random classes, and you're like, or even like maybe it's like maybe you are just a high energy guy, but your work fucking sucked that day. You had to work like 10 hours. You're just tired. Yeah, it's fine. You can just chill. You want to fight a dragon today, but like, man, I don't have the energy to describe how I backflip off of the dragon's wing as it like propels itself in the air because I was standing on it, because of course I was. Like, I don't want to like think and like conceptualize that. Can I just fucking tumble through? Can I just faint? It's like, yeah, like there should just be some little elements that help people who aren't going to come up with it, which I think is a beneficial thing that Pathfinder does, and I like that it does that.
Eamon Ben Kadra, game panache on fail would be overpowered though, because that's an auto panache most of the time. What about Maugus's Arcane Cascade? Gives extra damage. If you're Laughing Shadow, you gain a status movement to your speed. And that's just active all the time with just an action use after a spell. So, like, I don't see the problem. The only difference is that panache can be used to finisher, but that's still not guaranteed to hit anyway. So
It's a chance. You have a resource that lets you have a chance to hit. It's not a resource for an immediate effect.
And I mean, like, Thaumaturge gets just a bonus with their damage all the time as long as they're holding an implement. So, you know, not a very good argument, honestly.
I wouldn't say it's even overpowered. I would say it's the problem of there are later classes that have effects that are similar. It's just the curse that Swashbuckler was designed earlier in the design cycle. So like,
Yeah.
just it's the thing that happens in any game of like you start off a little like more grounded, and then we're looking at some of the later classes where it's like, yeah, Well, obviously this class can't have this because this would be overpowered. But anyways, let me look at this class that has these like ridiculous fucking concepts. It's just that's what happens. It's a new class has the ridiculous crazy stuff. Swashbuckler is early, so a tune-up is just which is what the remaster is doing. It's just kind of cranking up everything to be on like a little bit more equal field. Which I appreciate what they're doing.
It costs 3 actions for the Magus. Yeah, but you're doing something with your 2 actions. So, unless you're thinking that the Swashbuckler is not going to do something with their 2 actions. And also, what if they use their 1 action to get Panache and they fail? Then they're going to have to try the action again, making Panache cost 2 actions, which I think is way too much for that bonus. The Magus and Thaumaturge get extra stuff with their stuff too. Like I said, literally Laughing Shadow gives you a speed buff as well. Like I said, the only significant difference is finishers. And they have one finisher that like makes them do a little bit of damage on if they miss. Woo. It's like, not game changing.
Panache on base gives you a +5 foot status bonus to your speed and a +1 check to tumble through. So if Magus and Thaumaturge both have an effect that's similar for both of their versions too, that just sounds like that kind of just sounds like Thaumaturge and Magus have better forms of Panache, and that Swashbuckler has a worse version, and that maybe Swash just should be cranked up just a little bit to be equal.
Yeah. Also, you know what?
The curse of being designed earlier in the design cycle.
Yeah, you know what? Also, I think would be really cool for Swashbuckler, automatic acrobatics progression. Just let them get acrobatics improvements for free.
I don't see why they don't. It's like the same reason of like
why Alchemist doesn't either.
Yeah, why Alchemist doesn't have crafting. I was about to say that. Like, why doesn't like there are certain classes where it's like I don't see why they don't have this. It's like Inventor. Doesn't Inventor have automatic crafting as well?
Yep. Well, they're the only one who has automatic skill progression.
Yeah, because if they didn't, that'd be fucking ludicrous.
Oh, it would seem kind of backwards, which it does for Alchemist. Which, yeah, later design cycle, I'm pretty sure Alchemist will get crafting in Core 2. Pretty sure.
That's what happens in games. Like, especially like you have a new team, you have a new design philosophies. It's fucking years and years and years and years afterwards because it's just what happens, and that's what these game refreshes are for. They are to get everything on an equal playing field, and I'm excited to see what they do because of that. But it is just kind of what happens when you're releasing content regularly. Is you release something, you get a bunch of feedback, you realize like, damn, these people are right. This is a little undertuned. Well, we won't do that again, and we can't really go back and fix it. Beans. Anyways, and the next stuff has versions of it that are significantly better. That's normal. In competitive games, that's what's known as design creep or power creep. That's so normal. But because this is not a competitive game, it's just the design like cycle. Things that are earlier are just going to be undertuned in comparison. And like, why?
Daring Do is the best in slot. Yeah, it's kind of an unavoidable one.
Because also, like, is there a way to? The only way I'd be like, I don't know. Is there a way to be a non-dex Swashbuckler?
Yes, technically, because the only thing is you need to use finesse weapons, or it's finesse or I think it's unarmed. I'd be unarmed.
I'm looking at it right now. Because that's the only reason I could see. Oh yeah, you strike with flurry, you have panache, and you strike with an agile or finesse melee weapon, or agile and finesse unarmed attack.
Yeah, agile or finesse.
Yeah, it's first like strike, and then yeah, and then your finishers only work for weapons that would apply precision damage. So like you do need an agile finesse weapon to work.
But they don't need strength to be used. It's just you're forced to use essentially an agile weapon on a strength character, which isn't necessarily a problem necessarily, but when you kind of do the math for it, it does take like a small percentage of your loadout essentially math to give you finesse because it's an extra feature. So that could just be a different trait you could have on your weapon because you're not using finesse.
Yeah, and then the class itself is forcing you to use tumble through, or at least it really heavily incentivizing because I mean panache directly gives you bonuses to tumble through, and that's like one of the key ways. Like there's the base way that you gain it is there are skill checks associated with specific actions that have a bit of flair, including tumble through, and then the way is determined by your style. So like tumble through is the base way of gaining panache. So then, yeah, I mean, I don't see why they don't just have auto progression for acrobatics.
Yeah,
Because I
I
the
wouldn't give
only
them.
argument I could see is like maybe there's a way to play a strength character Swashbuckler, and then reading through the Archive of Nethys page, I'm like, nope.
I mean, but then your just acrobatics should just be less effective because you don't have as much dex. So
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
I wouldn't give them auto on both of their skills. I would only do it for one.
Only for one.
But if it's just auto for their skill one, I would think that'd be maybe even better, honestly. And but getting panache on fail, I feel that'd be much. That's because I'm comparing it to the inventor and using their overdrive. But their overdrive one on average just gives more damage, and two, inventor's broken. Inventor's really good.
Inventor's very good.
So that you're comparing apples to oranges at that point, you know.
True. And also like having strength on your Swashbuckler could still be fun because that's the idea where you can have your other maneuvers, like the idea of, you know, trip and disarm and all that.
Yeah, you have to use the athletic style is pretty much what it is.
Oh yeah.
Thanks, ML, for the sub. There's a lot, and yeah, so I don't think it's overpowered because I don't see enough compelling math. If the problem is okay, so we discounted the speed because we said Magus already gets something similar. We discounted the damage bonus because a lot of classes just get that. Some for free, even, really. So if it's like the +1 bonus to skill checks, like, I guess because it's status, that's like kind of good. But a +1 difference is rarely going to make it. It makes a 5% difference chance on
It's
any
the meme
particular
of the fighter.
check.
Like
Yeah.
the fighter number increase isn't actually that major of a deal.
Like, you can point every time a fighter beats a AC by 1 or 2 points, you can be like, fighter bonus. But if they ever do more, then it's like, well, the fighter bonus actually did nothing that attack, honestly. So, like, the +1, it's rarely gonna be that close. It's still good, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not good, but it's just when you total everything together, panache not that strong, and honestly, that mixed in with the fact that, like, when you compare fighter to swashbuckler, that +2 damage they get doesn't mean a thing. The speed is okay, but speed is only relevant when there's distance between you and where you're going. So when you're not moving, you're not getting that benefit. Like, attacks are always beneficial, right? Like, extra damage, extra attacks are mostly always beneficial. But bonuses to skill checks and stuff, and especially when, like, it's not even the fact that we're not saying panache is good. Panache is good. It's just, do you think panache is worth 2, possibly 3 actions to get? Because no one's saying getting panache for free. you're still spending an action when you get it on fail. But it'd be very hard for you to convince me that Panache is so good it needs a chance at 2 actions to get the benefit of. And against some enemies, you might just be super fucked because the enemy has super high defenses. Or if you're just fighting like a boss enemy, they can just be really hard to get your effects off of. And I guess then if getting Panache on fail is broken, then I guess the after you feat is also broken because you don't even have to spend an action to get the bonus from after you. You just go last in the, or you're next, sorry. Oh, no, it's after you.
Free. You just get that for free.
You just get it for being last in the initiative, which does mean you more often than not will get one less turn. But like, people take it anyway, so I don't know. I don't know. I'm open to the idea of being told otherwise, but the math just doesn't work out.
I just don't see. I just think that they could tune up how Panache is gained, or like have it more often that you can gain Panache in all these many different ways, because I think that there are other classes that have effects that can do similar bonuses, similar just random buffs, or similar resource gains that have just better loops, that have the specific benefit of being designed later. That is where
I wouldn't say later. Like, Ranger gets buffs on a single action against a particular target, so there's a chance I have to do it multiple times in a combat. You know, like, there's so many classes that get power buffs on single actions that, like...
I mean more when it was coming with Magus and Thaumaturge, because that was the direct comparisons.
Why do we think Paizo's going to drop a ton of books? I think you're misunderstanding drop.
We mean release.
It's release. And yeah, they're about to release a bunch of books because
it's like nuts.
We just got a lot of stuff coming up, and it's a ton. It's a metric ton. There's gonna be. I'm so excited for all the archetypes, all the new ancestry options. I'm very curious to see how they're gonna make mermaid work. I'm
curious.
How is mermaid going to be different than Aslanti? Or do you get a consummary free wheelchair with every mermaid that you play?
Unless it's like that one Disney Channel movie where like they gotta get hit with water and then they can like turn into their fish form or something.
Awakened Animals also gonna be really cool. The circus I think are also really, really cool. Wait, no, why do we think they're going to release a bunch of books? Because they're about to release a bunch of books.
That's just true. That's just a factual statement.
There's a book coming next month, there's a book coming this month, next month, skip June, and then another book in July, and then maybe 1 to 2 months, and then another book.
And is that accounting for the Starfinder stuff as well?
And that's not accounting Starfinder.
It's just this is a busy year, and I think that it was especially funny when we were talking with Michael Sayer, because that was really when it set in, where how busy they are at their office, where he was talking about like, man, they're also in crunch mode. Like, ooh, it must be rough over there. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I'm very curious for like Owl the Wild. I think that'll have, because every time somebody in our Discord posts like a little teaser from it, because that's how I get most of my my Pathfinder teasers. So those of you who do that, keep doing it. It's very helpful for me. They all look so cool. I don't know how much of like the ancestry stuff I use. There's one in particular. There's like some recent thing. Isn't there like a beehive thing that's dropping. That too. They don't have another company breathing down their neck. Yeah, the Swarm Keeper archetype. That's it. That looks really interesting. I'm very interested in that. Yeah, specifically now that they have they don't have to deal with the legal repercussions. That was a little bit of a scramble. Because like, yeah, going through the orc license and all that, that was I assume prepping all of that was a lot. And the little tidbits we got, especially with Michael Sayer and then his own threads, like talking about the remaster design decisions, it was very clear that was the decisions that were being made. But yeah, the Monster Core was recently. I keep seeing like little videos of it, including like cams, and it was just it seemed very cool. The new monsters all seem very fun. I am a fan of how Paizo is taking their monster designs. The new dragons obviously are the coolest. I'm a big fan of how they made a lot of their dragons.
All right, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Yeah, Swarm archetype, Swarm Keeper, something. Yeah, something along those lines. I don't remember. There's so much. This year was really slow in the beginning and then just picked up insanely fast in the last month. Daggerheart came out, followed by Monster Core like immediately. Which my Monster Core videos have been doing really. I was actually surprised Monster Core videos have been doing real. Not as surprised with the Dragon book, to be honest. I feel like a lot of people would be interested in what's going on with the dragons. But the my newest one, the top 5 video, I'm surprised has been doing as well as it has.
People want to know what monsters they're gonna have to deal with.
Though I feel bad for releasing it today. I hate having too much of a gap between my videos, but because it's already I can tell because I can see the numbers. Whenever I stream same day, the video just doesn't do super well. That's why I normally do my Lancer videos, because Lancer doesn't get a lot of views anyway, and people are just gonna look up for Lancer stuff specifically. But like other content on the same day as a stream, it's a little bit bad. But I didn't want to have as big of a gap, especially because there probably won't be a video coming out tomorrow. Maybe not. I'm not sure. I have a bunch of family stuff going on, so I've literally everything I've gotten out this week has been like in the spare time I've managed to get to grasp in between moments. Hopefully that'll be all settling down soon, though. They often drop books once every 1 to 3 months. I read a drop of ton of books, like multiple books per month. Well, no, but a book every month is a lot, even by this. Like, they've never dropped a book like a month that often. Maybe some, but even the few that they didn't drop that many like character options. And this is also very substantial because we're getting a whole new continent in game. That's going to be, now campaigns can take more place outside of just Avistan and Garens. So I think it's very significant that a book of this level is coming out literally right between Monster Core and Hound of the Wild. And then, like I said, then we get 1 month, and then we're at Player Core 2. And Player Core 2 is going to have so much affecting the game.
That's the
I've
one I think most people are looking forward to and looking into because it'll, just like Player Core 1, it's going to affect a lot.
yeah. So, it's a ton. It's someone who does this like as their job. I feel the pressure. So, I feel it's incredibly relevant. Also, I guess since we have so many people in chat, we should be getting someone from Paizo next week. I said it was going to be this week, but schedules are kind of conflicted. Honestly, this was a better week to have off from that anyway. But we should be getting someone from Paizo next week who's been working on some of the books. So keep tuned for that. It's another person I've been very excited to talk with, and someone who has a lot of really relevant information for the next couple books coming out. So that's going to be happening. I'm going to try to get Luis on at some point, the one who's been doing a lot of the stuff around the God's Reign prophecy stuff, which, by the way, the most recent one that came out, I thought for sure was going to be Torag, but Torag's still in the running. Who knows?
I can't believe that.
It might be Torag.
I got my money. My second guess is on Sarenrae. Only guess is because Critical Role and like what if? What if it's like secondary? Because maybe like that's kind of D&D related, and also other reason it might hurt the most. So they would be good story wise. So
Possibly.
like that'd be funny.
Honestly, Aurori getting saved was
For that.
very interesting to me. I thought Aurori for sure was going to be one of the more likely ones, which I'm cool with. Aurori's a badass, actually. Doesn't look like much in the art, but dude fought 1,000 demons in one, 1,000 gods in one, essentially.
He is very cool.
Very cool. I'm afraid of Pathfinder or Player Core 2 since I have an alchemist and champion in one of my games I'm GMing and a sorcerer in another. Yeah. I don't. Okay, so it depends. Aurori's kind of boring on the outside, though. I agree. That's why I thought he's more likely to be changed. I thought they would kind of swap him up to be something more interesting. Plus, there's just so many human gods. I figured one of them would be going. And, I mean, Abadar is still on the list, but, like,
Yeah.
who knows?
As somebody who was thinking the same thing, though, Dead Phoenix, of like, oh no, my character is gonna change up so drastically, and so I like all that because of Player Core. I'm now holding my character, my Nephilim War School just wizard, in my hands, and like he hasn't changed that much. Like the changes are so non like substantial. He's just tighter. Alchemist is gonna be the one, but like, and then also I guess champion, because I'm just curious what they're gonna be doing with no alignment. I'm curious.
I
what they're
don't think it's
do
going to be
with
that big a deal.
I
Legitimately.
don't think so either.
Cleric got
I'm
so little changes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more curious when it comes to, aren't they going to be focusing more on the idea of what is it, like basically tenants?
Yeah.
Is that the idea? Which that's why I'm curious, because I think that's a cooler concept and I like that way more. But Alchemist I think will be the most substantial, but essentially it's just you get to remake your character a bit, which I think is pretty cool. And a decent chance, just a little bit of a redesign. And it's a fair reason to do.
I am very interested to see the Sorcerer Bloodlines that are going. I feel like there's a lot of Sorceress Bloodlines that did need a bit of a tune-up. They felt like their Bloodline power was a little weak in comparison. So
I love the Devil one so much, but Divine Spellcasting hurts, bro.
Divine Spellcasting got a lot better recently, though.
It definitely did. But man, it was a struggle playing that.
So we'll have to see for sure. Player Core is going to have a ton of changes regardless. I'm actually super excited to see Oracle get some love, because I feel like Oracle is such a hard class to like just play normally, that it just feels like playing a spellcaster with extra steps. They
Yeah, it
can
seems
be
weird.
strong. There are some really kind of wonky Oracle builds out there. Yeah, and like I don't know, I feel like sorcerers need some tuning. I'm very interested to see the dragon stuff, barbarian, similar dragon stuff. I think is interesting.
I hope the dragon sorcerer bloodline gets to also. There's that one that also gets to make a skin suit. That'd be pretty fun.
I want to make skin suits, Dad.
Yeah, you don't get disguised person or like
Calm
anything like
down,
that.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
You also have to compress yourself into a weird disguise suit. Be really cool. Yeah, the also just man, anything they could do to make the sorcerer feats better, because sorcerer feats are a fucking snooze fest.
Yeah. Spellcasters' feats in general have never been historically super good. I guess until we got to like Psychic.
Wizard has some at least.
Wizard
I've
got
I've picked some and I'm like, ooh, these are fun. I
Wizard
like
got some good
this.
ones, and they got a little bit of love in the remaster. Which definitely has some good ones now. The evolution feats are really cool. I'd love to see more of that kind of flavoring with more of the stuff. My group left remaster classes from Player Core 1 to be updated to remaster at the player's discretion. So players could use cool new stuff or not. Just had to go all remaster changes or none. I don't even think you need to make that distinction, honestly. The rules are pretty compatible.
I think it's a fair conversation to have at your table, like if you're concerned about it being like that. Because I think that's what we have is we have a mix right now at our table. Because we have because Barbarian is gonna be in Player Core 2.
Yep.
Swashbuckler is also a class we have that's in Player Core 2. But like we also in our current party have a fighter, a cleric, and a wizard, which I mean I'm the wizard.
Well,
And is Summoner gonna be in Player Core 2?
no, but they
Okay.
should be getting erratas around the
Makes
same time.
But I think them being mixed, which I mean that's the thing they said, is it's fine that everything's backwards compatible. I think it works, but I think the decision of having a conversation and everyone deciding hey, how do we want to proceed is a fair thing to discuss.
Yeah,
I know
I
some people
agree.
are worried. Some people are worried. I think there's some people who are a little too worried because in practice, what has really changed in all of our experience, the thing that has impacted the most is Archive of Nethys is harder to browse. That is all that has happened because all of the names we know are changed.
Yeah,
That's what
that's
happened.
true. That's
That's
the hardest part
the
of the
big.
remaster. Is like, what was
That's
this
really all
thing
it was.
again? Oh, they changed it.
It's just what kind the majority of the changes are really just name and keyword switches. That's really how it feels. And then there's some things that got quality of life changes because cleric is nice. I keep looking at cleric.
Yeah, the search
Cleric
function
is
works
great.
fine. This search function doesn't work so fine. Trying to remember what the name got changed to is a little rough sometimes.
That's the problem. Is the problem of that we remember the names.
We remember
And
the old ways.
yeah. Because we've been playing these characters for a long time, and then we remember. I used to have this feat, and then it's like, what the fuck did they name it to? Or me specifically, when I was going through my new spell list, and I'm like, what is the spell name? What do they change it to? That was
Though,
the problem.
we can all take heart. Even people who work on these books forget the rules that they put in these books all the time. So,
Yeah, it's
no one.
normal. You put a lot of rules in it.
Yeah, well, who would expect you to catalog literally thousands of rules? It's unrealistic.
Yeah, it's
And they're
easier if
adding
you use
more.
Foundry. They are adding more.
They're adding
Using
so much
Foundry
more.
Using Foundry makes it easier. It's what makes it really nice. But it is just that is the hurdle. in all honesty. Balance-wise, it doesn't feel weird. They did have a lot of work, Archive of Nethys, but I'm happy they finally got everything all sorted. They had a lot on their plate. Though I hope I imagine it's probably going to be the same amount of weight when it comes to Player Court 2.
Yeah, I trying to look up, like, see if I can find any secrets in Tianxia from stuff that's come up online. Oh, hey, I found the ancestries. Here we go. So we're adding the Samsarans, the Wayangs. So Yangs are freaky little dudes. And the Tanuki are the new ancestries. They're coming in.
Hell yeah. I'm going to be eyeing up those archetypes. It's the archetypes and I guess just the other stuff, because I mean, I'm basic sometimes. I usually just go for humanoids. I ain't playing like animal people. I have a single lizard man and that's it.
Oh, that's the character guide. That's coming out in August? Is this on their store page? URL failed. Paizo, please. Oh, okay. So the world guide is coming out in August. Great. So actually, so those aren't coming out. So I was mistaken. I do think there is ancestry options coming out in the world guide, though. And yeah, so oh, that's character guide I'm reading again. Oh my god, there's so many books. Yeah, world guide's coming first. Character guide's coming in August. Okay. So we'll have to see what actually is coming out. Cast tome slappy, yeah. See, and this is the thing, right? I can't keep up with all of this. I have so much going on all the time. And it's like, oh, hey, by the way, we're releasing, so in the next, let's see. Well, so this month, next month, skip June, July, then August. Not included, so that's four new books in pretty much the next 5 months. That's insane. That's not including the War of the Immortals book. So much. And like, I'm the only channel that's going to be doing this, I guarantee. Remaster 2, I'm going to be making my videos again of what changed. And that's going to be a lot of work, I guarantee. What class? Actually, here's a good question. What class should I start with? Do y'all think? What class do you all want to hear about first? What should I make my first video on?
For Player Core 2?
For Player Core 2. I'm very curious. And yeah, Hector, you're welcome. Lancer's an amazing game.
It's the best game.
I want to play it so badly. You have no idea how many times I've been trying to get some other groups to play Lancer and have failed repeatedly. And it's not even
busy. It's also been I've had my situations. I keep having situations where I look at it and I'm like, oh, I'd be down, and then I'm also like, fuck, I can't. I have to go do. I have to use this time somewhere else. And every time I then used it and then was like, okay, I am happy I used these 4 hours for something different. This helps a lot.
Yeah.
But then also was like, oh, I wish I was a big robot right now.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where it's like adult life, we're like, we set time aside. I get more free time. Okay, let me go do that.
Yeah, especially I'm probably shifting jobs soon. I'll tell you about it more when we wrap up stream. But that's literally like it's just setting aside time and then like schedule. It's just working with the schedules. Fucking weird. And you know what the answer though is? You know what the answer should be for this class? Because everyone in chat is wrong because they're not my answer. It should, because that's the right answer. It's me we're talking about. Investigator, because it's your favorite class.
Oh, thank you. I don't think investigator is going to get changed at all.
I don't care. You should do another one on it because it's a chance for you to make another video that gets more views because you put remaster in the title.
True. Yeah.
That's the point of these, because you just say remastered and then you just make a video that you could look at and maybe even say it's a better video.
Yeah. To be fair, on my channel, I don't even think only one remaster has jumped into my top 10 videos. Yeah, only one remaster has actually jumped into my top 10 videos, and that's Witch.
That's true.
A lot of them are not far off, though, honestly. Also,
Investigator's one of your more popular class videos, probably because you said it was your favorite.
Probably.
So say that remastered is your favorite class, and then it'll get more.
The best class just got better.
Exactly.
I do actually really like Alchemist, though. To be fair.
Yeah, I'm curious what their changes are, and I'm curious if they'll make it in a way that's better, because I'll understand how it functions.
Yeah, Wizard literally is just right outside that top 10. But it's not even top 10, it's top 12 videos. Literally, Wizard Remasters the next video. I'm also something I'm very surprised about. My how to play Lancer videos have been slow growing, but they're now just creeping into the top 10 quicker and quicker.
They're just doing well. People keep watching them for the helpful guides.
Yeah,
this is a good game that everyone should play.
True, I agree. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I really do need to get. I've been trying so hard to work on the cinematic character builds because I want to do something that I would like to funnel money into Patreon wise, and it's so much work. God. Also, like the Lancer video I did this week was the most editing I've done in a video in like years. It was just such a long video to do. It was essentially 5 build videos in one, which is why it took so long.
Yeah, it's a lot of cutting around. I mean, I feel that. I do a lot of editing, and then my bigger videos, because anytime I do an overview video, those usually take me about a week to make. They take a while. A lot of info to like page through and put on screen.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that was like the thing with the build videos is like I had to like read them, digest the information, and then try to like as best as I can interpret these little parts on the Discord to make a full build. And then to get told off by all the people who made the builds in the video. So many comments like, correction, actually. Like, man, it's not my build. I'm sorry. Cinematic builds for a Lancer would be cool, too. Yeah, I mean, honestly. I mean, the biggest thing is I want to bring a very heavy narrative, like, feel to the builds to inspire people to play builds, because there's a difference between like, oh, that sounds like a really cool mechanic, and like that's a really cool character idea. Because at least with the way I play, I get more inspired by the idea of characters than I do about the idea of builds.
I mean, I'm same. I'm not a build guy. I usually
Not a build guy. All you've
don't
been
call me
talking
out.
about for so long has been, oh yeah, I made another few Pathfinder builds in the
Don't
last few
call me
days.
out. They're characters that have builds.
Yeah, but yeah, they are builds by definition.
Technically, I will say a lot of it is I go through and I'm going through like the classes and stuff, and I'm like building the character out, and I'm like, there's no character concept, and I like delete it because I've tried like 5 times to build like a cleric that's like a paladin, like a 5e paladin style, and nothing has been built because it's like, man, I got nothing here because like I don't have a strong character concept. But then when I go to my dread fighter character, that's like, yeah, because this character is inspired by Paul Atreides and Garrus from Mass Effect, and I'm like, I have a strong image for who this guy is. And then I have like my lizard folk sniper, like chameleon. It's like this is a character. I know who he is. I know what his inner conflict is. I know what his whole shtick is. I got him down, and like that's the element I have. And then I just have to tie in a little build because
Yeah,
I need something to do.
yeah, that's a great thing about Pathfinder. Just there's so many really interesting ideas because you're like, that looks kind of interesting. I could see the story behind it. Brain blast,
Exactly.
character, just paint gun splat on the wall. There's my character. It's really great.
I do like that's what happened when I literally just was like looking through like Archive of Neth's ancestry, and I read android, and I was like, androids, emotional regulation, they're like, really like stoic and pretty like in tune, and like they hide their emotions, would be good. Wouldn't it be funny if I picked barbarian? That's a funny haha. Wait a second. Dragon instinct. Blue dragon. What? And then I had a whole character concept for that of like this android with like a deep inner hatred for blue dragons that he doesn't understand. And I have this really fun character idea now that I want to play. It's like, damn, this is like that's the idea. It's more like this is the equivalent of writing the character concept down.
And
And I've been doing that, yeah.
yeah, and I got a comment on one of my videos recently that shows just the very difference between like how different people make games or make builds. Because I made a build, and in my builds I leave a lot of options open so that players can slot in whatever they want. I don't tell you necessarily what skills you have to invest in unless it's a strong part of the build. I don't tell you what ancestries you have to do unless, again, it's a strong part of the build. All kinds of stuff. Then I get a comment. By the way, why not playing this as a dual-born Suli human adopted by goblins for 3 extra resistances? And it's like, wow, that's a lot for 3 extra resistances. It's like, what part of the character is left at that point?
Yeah, how are you gonna, if you can roll to the table and justify that with a really cool character, be my guest.
Right.
But
it's
like,
just like,
if you can't, then it's like this is like the fucking gnome flick mace thing again.
right.
Where it's like, what happened to the gnome population, dude? Like, what's going on here?
Why is everyone being adopted by gnomes? Crazy.
Yeah, it's which that would have been a funny thing to actually get dropped in the lore thing if there was a large city that economically they're like a bunch of gnomes were being like had a bunch of tax breaks for adopting humans or something. Like just the Pathfinder themselves, like, or just Paizo put it in the lore like a little joke, being like, yeah, a bunch of you kept using this one weapon, we made it too strong.
It was a gnome fad for a while. Yeah, I just it's one of those things where it's just like, if you're picking everything about your character purely for the build, then you are doing it wrong. Plain and simple.
Yeah,
Like
it's just boring. I don't know.
it's like just go play a board game, right? Because again, right? I understand people play differently. They want different things. I got you. But the thing that I like about tabletop is how you build a narrative around, and the game supports that, not the other way around, where it's just like, I have this really cool build, now I need to make a character. Because you know what? You know the thing that makes people have character failure more often than not? Building a build before building the character. So it seems just a little counterproductive.
True. Uh, yeah, actually, because Grog, or actually, yeah, Grog, and then there's Gorga, both of them adopted by gnomes. Uh, there's there's a there's a good amount of stuff too that, like, if you're going into for Pathfinder, you can have, there's so many good flavor stuff with your ancestry too. Because, like, a fun
Yeah.
thing that Devin and I are gonna do at some point when we bring back Magnus and Audrey for Pathfinder at some point is we're both going dwarf and elf, but we're gonna do adopted ancestry for each other's ancestry. So I'm gonna be a dwarf with adopted ancestry for elf. He's gonna do elf for dwarf.
Yeah.
And, like, our
It's a lot of
first
fun.
ancestry feat, like, we both made a pact that is going to be for each other's ancestry. And so I'm going to be a dwarf with increased movement speed. I don't know what he's gonna pick, but it's gonna be like, it's stuff like that where he's like, is that the optimal choice? Probably not. Is it the fun choice because it accentuates, like, how the friendship between these two characters? But yeah, these are characters that I think we decided, like, basically were like found family brothers from, like, a young age. It's like essentially they were just family, so they just picked up traits from each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and that sounds cool. I mean, I also like Dead Phoenix's character here. I just want to be a human raised by gnomes because that's just what everyone was doing at the time. Like, it
Yeah.
just funny to kind of put that kind of context on it. And and that's the thing, right? And I said it earlier. Most character failures literally come from people who make a build and then they don't know how to play the character attached to the build. And that seems like a bad way to approach building a character. That's why whenever I do builds, I leave as many options open as possible. And the build itself is like a play style. Because like this person who wanted the 3 extra resistances in the build was a defensive build. It's a build that already negates and defends against a lot of damage anyway. So like the 3 resistances, honestly, is a little bit overkill when you could just make a more interesting character with that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, like, honestly, my best characters have been characters that just have some kind of quirk in their personality lately. I'm playing a ancient elf who's a guy. He's a thaumaturge, and he loves like finding deep lore and everything. I picked Eldori Duelist as my free archetype, and the reason why I picked that archetype for him is because he had a crush on like this Eldori Duelist way back in the day. So he got into it to get in with this guy, and then the guy turned out to be straight. And he's like, "Well, damn. Well, I guess I'm an Eldori sword master." Sword
Put
master
in
now.
all the work for someone and then was like, so I did all this and it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Damn, I feel bad for him.
Damn. Exactly, And he's just that kind of guy though. And it's the thing is like just that thought of he just picked this thing to be, to try to get with someone and it didn't work out. Just makes the character so flavorful and it's so fun to play as him because he's just, he's an old elf. He's just like, I've been around, I've seen a few things. I know some secrets of the world that most people don't. And I one time had a fling with an Aldori soul. Well, not fling. I like a close bond with an Aldori sword master. So I learned everything I could, and now it's just like, now I just use it because it's like, why not? I studied for like 10 years.
Yeah, it immediately hits the fact that this might just be a character who, like, is very good at learning things, but what is the motive for learning things? Or, like, or not even like that there's underhanded meanings for it, but it's just when you're living at that age, it's just it kind of changes your perspective on like, and also just the there's all in fantasy stuff. There's always the perspective on elven mastery of subjects, or even elven just learning stuff, being a jack of all trades, and like how their perspectives on that, which I think is really interesting. And also the idea that immediately hammers home of the damn, that's unlucky. And I immediately started thinking this character might just be like a little unlucky in a lot of aspects of his life, which might be the reason he's adventuring right now.
Yeah, I mean, see, that's the thing, right? That thing inspired a character idea in Alex right now. Me talking about a guy who is upset upset because this guy he was pursuing is straight. And now he's just like, yeah, but that's such an interesting idea. Like the idea of like elves who live so long and mastering things and all that kind of stuff. It's that's right. That not a build, not nothing. Just an elf guy who wanted some bussy and didn't get any. Great character idea.
It's the key thing that always comes down to it is if you're trying to make a character, it's the trap that happens for a lot of people when it comes to role playing. Is some people have the trap of like, oh, I'm trying to make this interesting character. I wrote 20 pages of backstory. That's not usually what it is. A lot of times, if you approach it from the perspective of, I'm going to make a living, breathing human being that exists in the real world. If you were to write your backstory, like in real life, your backstory is probably not that long. But human beings are inherently complicated beings, and you can say a few sentences of your past and like your thought processes, and that can give a lot of implications of who you are as a human being. And that's what you got to think about it. I hear the sentence about a character, and I can immediately make some assumptions. If they're right, if they're wrong, who knows? But you can extrapolate things about a person and then like dig that way from a character. That's what I do. It's like I make a decision of like, okay, this character does this thing. Why are they like this? What does that apply? Well, it makes me think like this. All right, let me work backwards. And then you can like extrapolate and make a character that then functions like a living, breathing person. Because that's always my goal when I make a character is I want to make a character that lives in this world.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, and it's funny because I had the idea for the character and I was just mulling it over, and I was just like, okay, well, what do I kind of want to do with this character? I'm playing because I'm playing my archivist build, which is a very fun build where you use the raised tome.
Oh yeah,
and the tome thaumaturge. This is very cool, and literally, the thing that made the character pop for me was me just sitting there idly deciding like, I think he's gay. What does that mean for this character? And I just got instantly in my mind like the idea of this guy who like, so his favorite types of guys are like the kind of little plus size guys, clean shaven though, like not full bears, who are sweet as hearts and fall in love easily. He loves those guys the most, and he always breaks their heart because he's never that into it, but they're just his type. Like, that's just his type, is the kind that get overly attached. But he's not the kind to get overly attached.
Damn.
And so it turned him into an interesting character. Because it's like, what is that character? What's he act like? You know, what's his thing? Because he's obviously not doing it maliciously. And he does feel kind of bad. So now I have this guy who's just like, he's very aloof. He has fun in the moment. He's kind of quiet and he kind of watches the room sometimes. And when he sees a guy who's being like a little bit too ahead of himself, he teases him. He's like, I remember when one of our fights, like they kept missing my character. So I kept saying that he deflected their arrows with his sword because of his sword mastery he learned, you know? And the guy in the GM who's my fiance was just playing it up, and he's just like, you remind me of that elf guy that my wife left me for, and my guy was just like, yeah, I'll leave you too. You know, just that line. It's just his personality. It's just like kind of snarky, a little flirtatious, and kind of just apathetic in the end, you know?
Yeah.
Great
It's little
character.
decisions like that that build it. Because I mean, I had a similar thing too with one of my characters. Because I had the determination with my character I play every Friday, Eric, because Eric is also gay. Um, and like that was a bit where immediately expanded a lot of like, oh. And I came to that realization because I do a thing where I build character playlists, and there's a backstory character. It's very pivotal for Eric's whole shit. The reason he's the way he is, and I was like, man, like I'm just being drawn to all these like these songs for this one character. Why are they all weirdly romantic? Oh no, Eric.
Yeah.
Oh fuck. Oh god. And then like I pointed out to like specifically I pointed out to like Vale, and then they were like, yeah, I know. Like everyone at the table was already like guessing that. And
Yeah,
it
and
was
that's
like
the thing.
it was like those moments where it's like, oh yeah, you're adding depth, and like that depth might have already been there. And then it just because these characters are people, and when you really unlock that immersion, it I don't know, it feels really cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? And it's so many different things and so many different layers, and it's like the fact that my character's type is also just like opposite of the general elf physique, is just another thing where it's just like, yeah, he also just doesn't he just doesn't find elves attractive at all.
It's
Which is
also a little extra
interesting.
sad because that's the elf long life,
Yeah.
and then if he's not
Well, and that's
attracted to
that's probably just
also
why he doesn't get connected.
that too. Like there's I immediately think it's a little sad because now my interpretation of this character is like, is that a wall he intentionally built up as a coping mechanism?
Maybe, who knows?
It's
Like,
like, damn.
that's the fun part, is you can build as the story goes. And and literally, like, again, this person who wanted the dual born self-human goblin to have 3 sets of extra resistances to various things, like, that sounds boring in comparison to my gay elf. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's boring in the idea of it's coming from the wrong place in like specifically how we play. Because like I think you can make it work if you come to the table with the best justification.
Yeah.
You need to own it. You need to prove it.
The most broken of builds can be also done really well with role playing, but
Yeah,
you need
to own it.
Has to come from a place where it feels like the obviously like meta stuff comes organically, which is very hard because there's tons of times I've heard someone say like, well, no, you can make a broken character and give them a really good story, and then every time you hear their story, it sounds like they're just trying to justify their build, like 9 times out of 10, when in actuality, just make your character gay.
That's the secret.
That's the secret sauce right there. No, but like make your characters actually have a quirk. That's the thing that really built this character. It doesn't even matter that he's gay. The thing that mattered is it was a quirk. It's something that made him kind of unique in perspective. The fact that like, yeah, I got into this archetype because I was trying to get with this guy who then turned out to be straight. And I had already been doing it for 10 years. So it's like, okay, I guess I'm a Aldori swordmaster now. But anyway, that's going to be it for us. I actually have something to go to. So, hopefully, we'll be getting some cool stuff here soon. I will be delivering it here on the channel. And hopefully next week I'm not so busy and I can start working on some of the projects I've been meaning to finish. But anything you want to leave us off with, Alex, before we head out?
Well, hopefully I will be a lot more regular now that I'm not sick and my throat isn't dying. But if you're interested in lore content, largely I cover Warhammer 40k and Vampire the Masquerade lore. For my 2 main subjects, go check out Glue Boy. Just look that up on YouTube, or it's linked in Camp's channel. I put out a video on a fun Necron character today, one Illuminor Zeraz. Just an absolute psychopath Necron, to be completely honest. I got a very fun vampire video that's going to come up next week. I'm really excited after scripting it all out. So stay tuned, go subscribe, just bell on, check that out. But yeah, just keep tuned for the stuff that we're working on.
Yeah, and there's a lot that's going to be coming out here soon, I think, for both of us. So
yeah,
but all right, I guess we'll say goodnight.
good night.
Good night.